ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. So in this chariot imagery, this whole thing is, very beautifully talked about, so that we can discern the various levels. So the ahankara is the one who says, I am an agent, I am the doer, I am the experiencer. And then the mind, is the first level of brakes for the sense organs that are grazing indiscriminately. So you're driving to go somewhere, let's say a job interview, and on the way something wonderful you see, and then you feel like stopping, but then immediately what happens? No, 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 not now. Maybe on the way back, the mind, you tell yourself, maybe on the way back, but this is not the time to stop anywhere. This is the time to just go and finish what I have said I would. Maybe I have to take a test, maybe I have to go for an interview, whatever it is I have to do, I have to do it right now. This is the mind. But supposing the mind is, the reins are weak, the reins holding the horses, the reins are weak and frayed, then the buddhi has to come to the, rescue. The mind says, come on, I don't think I'll get this job, so might as well enjoy this. Then the buddhi has to say, that is not for you right now. That is not for you. And so the buddhi is the one holding the reins. So the reins have to be tightened because the reins were slack up till now. But the sense organs are very, here the horses in the form of sense organs are very, very pushy. They are wanting to go their own way. So, and the reins are very slack. So the buddhi has to pull them back, pull the horses back. So like this, it all depends on the driver. Whether whether your chariot goes on the road of dharma, that which is, that the path of righteousness, or whether the chariot falls into a ditch, depends on the skill and the ability of the driver, who is symbolized by the buddhi. So this octet is a suprabhatam for the buddhi, which was sleeping and not waking up to its own glory and its priorities. This is like a suprabhatam to the buddhi. That itself is kind of, a vyangya here, a kind of a figure of speech called sarcasm, irony. And then the second irony here is that in the traditional suprabhatam, the glories of the particular Bhagavan or Bhagavati in that particular form are sung. You are great, Narashardula, you are the tiger among all beings, you are Bhagavan, you are great, please get up and wake up the three worlds. Like this, the glories of the Lord and the Goddess are sung in Suprabhata, and in this Suprabhata, the inglorious nature of the buddhi is talked about. How? As a form of prayer and surrendering the buddhi at the feet of the Lord. Very nice. So this is where the solution is hinted, right from the first stanza. And the solution, because he says, let me point to where the solution is hidden here, and that solution, it's like a Mahapratigya, Do you not have a text? Oh, good. Yeah.
There's an extra.
Yeah, there you go. So, the solution is hidden right here. And what is the solution? Dosha graha katham udetu. From where will this fault finding, dosha graha means grasping, pointing to the faults. Katham udetu, from where will it come? Where will it come? When everything is Ishvara, then there is everything is the glory of Ishvara alone. And in this glory of Ishvara, even this fault finding, oh Lord, I'm giving it to you. When you give it to Ishvara, then it becomes glorious. Where? Because there is nothing inglorious about Ishvara. So whatever you give becomes glorious for Ishvara. It becomes Ishvara's glory. So up till now, what was it? It was a limitation of my buddhi, my thinking. My wrong thinking was my own limitation. And instead of holding this limitation, what do? I invoke the Lord and, make it into a fact, a social fact. Like, okay, I'm noticing this. I notice that I have this shortcoming. I have only one shortcoming. What is this one shortcoming? Finding other people's shortcomings. And so, what do I do with this? I don't know how to do it. It's like holding a hot potato. So you keep bouncing it and then you give it off to someone else. And so who to give it here? Someone who can handle it, which is the source of the universe. You give it there, and the source of the universe, here, Bhagavan is, free of all dosha. Nirdoshe Ishvare. In this, Bhagavan who is free of all Ishvara, I give him a few of my faults. What's going to happen? Nothing, because it's not going to stain Bhagavan. Because really speaking, these faults are as though faults. Because really you are Satchidananda, So then should I not come tomorrow to the class because it's an as though fault and then I don't need to address it? Or do you think? No. It has to be addressed. You can't not address it. So it's an as though fault because, your Swarupa is free of all doshas. And your Swarupa is free of looking for faults in others also. So as I told you, it's a projection. So what happens? The projection, the hot potato of fault finding is the projection. And you give it to Lord Shiva, cool Shiva. And then, then what happens? You're not afflicted by it. And this is a very important maxim in Vedanta, where devotion and knowledge, coalesce. Because, when you invoke the Lord, what are you invoking? The limitless Bhagavan you're invoking. And you're invoking that which is limitless. Who is invoking the limitless? The limited one. Correct? Who is this devotee? Limited one. I don't have, I'm an idiot, I'm self-critical, I have self-loathe, I am full of tears, I am full of fears. This is the one. The limited one, the one who feels, who feels bound by a notion of limitation, is invoking Bhagavan as limitless. When the limited connects to the limitless, then what happens? Limitations go away because it is the limitless. The truth of yourself is limitless. All limitations go away. Doshagraha kathamudetu. From where is this fault? So this fault is, my problem. As soon as I say, and I say, Isha, oh Lord, Mama Isha, oh my Lord, this problem, this is my problem. As soon as you say this is my problem, and it's almost as though that problem has been lifted away. Why? Because in this connection, you're invoking the whole. And you are that whole which you are invoking. The only difference is you don't know. That's all. You're still in the process of knowing. And so, that which is limitless can accommodate all limitations as though, because those limitations are a projection upon that which is already limitless. The projections come and go, the projections are as though. So, in as many limitations as you want, you can give this Ishvara, it's not affected. And similarly, upon this Satchidananda Atma, this self that is free of all sorrow, fear, you can put so many limitations. They are all as though I'm an idiot. as though, I'll never learn, as though, I'll never gain this knowledge, as though. When will I do this? As though. When will I stop this? As though. It's all as though. So when the so-called limited jiva connects to that Ishvara which is limitless, which is the truth of itself, all that remains is limitless. Limitations are gone. So here, even the fault-finding nature of myself, this ego that keeps on finding fault, this ahankara, has been now Ishvarized. When in doubt, Ishvarize. That's all it is. It is seen as Ishvara. Because really speaking, how, think about it. How do you find fault? How do you find fault? Because I have a buddhi. Who gave you the buddhi? Ishvara. Yeah. So any question I ask, the answer is Ishvara. So, who gave you the buddhi? Ishvara. Correct? And then why is there, why does the buddhi want to find fault? Because there is a sense of insecurity. From where did this insecurity come? Ishvara. Or you can go a little roundabout way. Ajnanam, Atma Ajnanam. I don't know the truth of myself, so I have self-ignorance. Where did this self-ignorance come? Then you can go a little further. Self-ignorance came because in the last life I didn't study Vedanta. Okay. In the previous life, no exposure to this knowledge, so there I was ignorant. But then where did the self-ignorance come? Anadi. And again, it is all because of Ishvara. The setup is like this. Correct? So if everything is Ishvara, well, what is there about you to talk about? There is no you to begin with. Nothing at all. It's all Ishvara. And nicely, see now a very fantastic thing has happened. He begins on a very self-deprecating note. Anyasya dosha ganana kutukam. I have no other business except to keep on counting other people's faults, etc., etc. He begins on a very self-deprecating note, and then what he does? And then he slowly shifts everything to Bhagavan, and then washes his hands off. Really. This is what the whole thing is. There is one story, that, what is it, this Tenali Ram, there was one minister. Yeah, Tenali Ram. And so, in the court of this Vijayanagar empire, Krishna Deva Raya. Yeah. And then so, the story was that this Krishna Deva Raya, along with his queen, they were sitting and enjoying mangoes. And then, so this king saw Tenali coming from there, and just to have some fun with him, shifted on all the peels and the seeds were there in front of each of them. So he shifted all the peels and the seeds over to the queen's side, and then he said, when Tenali Ram came closer, he said, "Look at how gluttonous your queen is. Look at, how many mangoes she has eaten." Because all his mangoes, everything, all the peels he shifted on it. So poor queen, she had this big mountain of mango peels and mango seeds. And then this one, Tenali Ram kept quiet, smiled and didn't say anything. How come you're quiet, you're not saying anything? He says, well, if you insist, Your Majesty, I'm really wondering who the bigger glutton is. Why? The proof is right here. The king shows. He says, well, Your Majesty, you seem to be the bigger glutton because you seem to have eaten the seeds and the peels also. So it's like that, So everything, all the peels and everything shifted to that side. So all my doshas and my fault of finding faults with others, in the beginning I cry out in surrender. Oh, what to do? I have this problem. How do I overcome this problem? And then slowly, see how clever this author is. By the end of the first stanza, before you know what is happening, he has, shown that everything is Bhagavan. Akhile Ishe Sati. If everything is Bhagavan, why should I even worry about this flaw? What flaw? There's only universal law, no flaw. Yeah, you have to remove the F. Yeah. So like this, there is no flaw. There is just a universal law that under these circumstances, then because of ignorance and insecurity centered on the self, there is some kind of a fault finding problem. So it becomes a problem, not just my problem. Before it was my, mama. Now it is just a problem that needs to be objectively looked at and eliminated for the sake of advancing in our studies. Beautiful, isn't it? So we can, with these words, we can go further. एषा व्यथेतर कृतेति ममेश तस्मिन् कोपो यदि स्वपरकाममुखप्रसूता सेयं व्यथेति महिमेन कथन्नु कोपः स्वस्य व्यथा स्वदुरित प्रभवा हि सर्वा together. एषा व्यथेतरकृतेति ममेश तस्मिन् कोपो यदि स्वपरकाममुखप्रसूता सेयं व्यथेति महिमेन कथन्नु कोपः स्वस्य व्यथा स्वदुरित प्रभवा हि सर्वा. So, Esha Vyatha, this, distress. Esha Vyatha, this distress is what, he says this distress is Swapara Kama Mukha Prasuta. Prasuta, born. This distress is born by or through, through the gateway called Kama. Whose Kama? My own Kama and other people's Kama. So sometimes they clash, correct? My own Kama clashes with somebody else's Kama. Because I want something and then somebody else also wants the same thing, and therefore that leads to me deriding them. Why do you have to come here? There are so many things, go and take that. Why do you have to do this? Like this. Or, I want something of somebody, like as a significant other or a child, and they want to do something else completely different than what I want. This is there so many times. The parents want the children to be something or to behave in a certain way, and Bhagavan assures that that offspring will not behave in that way. You are very, you want the child, you are very active, you're a hiker, and you like all these outdoor things, and then you want the child also to be very active. In fact, you hope it is born with a little backpack on its shoulders. So, this is what the whole thing is. And then, to such parents, we'll have a quiet, contemplative child. Definitely. This is how, this is the law. Okay? Yeah. Because everybody needs to mellow down. This is how Bhagavan has. Bhagavan has made this vyavastha, arrangement. And then sometimes, the parents want to, meditate all the time, and they want the child to be born in Chin Mudra. Okay? So the child has to be very calm and contemplative. And that child actually will be born with a backpack on its shoulders, because it is already going hiking and is going into the woods and is doing this and it's doing that. That's how it is. And then there is dismay. In both cases, there is dismay. There is a doubt. Did an exchange take place in the hospital when we were not looking? How could this be my child? You know? This is what the whole thing is. But it is your child. The child also, after it grows up, it wonders, how can these people be my parents? Was I adopted and they haven't told me about it? But this is the vyavastha. This is a kind of an arrangement. And this is what it is, you know. So this causes vyatha, anguish, distress. And what is this distress? That, you know, it is not going my way. Yeah. And then, you know, paravishaye kamaha, swavishaye kamaha. So there is kama with regard to yourself. There is with kama with regard to others. Plus, other people have kama towards, you know, about your own actions, how they want you to behave. And then other people have certain other desires of how you should and should not behave. All these things are there. And so therefore, you know, this is, you know, esha vyatha swaparakama prasuta. So this anguish, he says, is, you know, an intrinsic anguish, an inner anguish that has nothing to do with the world, the universe as it is. It is an anguish born of your own unmet expectations and unmet desires, and those of others' unmet expectations and desires. And so the whole world, all the people in the world, are nothing but incarnations of unmet expectations and desires. That's what they are. And then they are, of course, mingling together and getting married to each other. And, you know, so it's just a big mess. Because they're not, each one is complaining about, in fact, two bunches of complaints get married to one another. Yeah. That's why every marriage is called, has got one honeymoon period. Yeah. And the honeymoon somehow, you know, you just don't think about it. But then afterwards, all the problems come. But the problems are not centered on one another. The problems are, you know, based on this whole insecurity which projects raga dveshas. Insecurity broadcasts, you know, strong preferences, raga, strong prejudices, dvesha. All these strong preferences and prejudices, they are part of what is called the subtle body that keeps, you know, taking birth, you know, and life after life. The subtle body, including the mind, the buddhi, the, you know, the raga, vesha, all these desires, that is the fuel for the next birth. The gasoline for the next birth is this. What if I have fine, you know, what if I have fine raga dveshas? It's like premium unleaded. That's all. It is still gasoline. Still gasoline, maybe a higher variety of gasoline. That's all it is. It is the petrol for the next birth, for the next body. So this anguish, vyatha, where did this suffering come from? He's again, talking about, he's talking to Lord Shiva here. Where did this pain, where did this suffering come from, O Lord? Esha vyatha, then he says, so Esha vyatha swaparakama prasuta, even though it is, the clash of my own desires along with others, it is considered by me to be itara krita, itaraihi krita. This, itara means others. So itaraihi krita, esha vyatha. So the esha vyatha has two, qualifiers. One is swaparakama prasuta vyatha, and then itarakrita vyatha. Itarakrita means it's not because of me. This anguish, somebody else is the problem. That is how I see it. This anguish that I constantly blame on someone else. Because of you, I am not happy. How many times we say this? If you were not there in the world, I would be very happy. Okay, remove the person. I mean, not literally, figuratively. Let's say take the person out of the equation. Okay, yeah. So take the person out of the equation. Is this person any happier? No. Often that is the case. Not any happier at all. Why? Because, this yatha is svakama prasuta, parakama prasuta. And so it is basically because of unmanaged preferences and prejudices that this pain is there. This pain is not, even though I regard it as somebody else's problem, I am in pain because you didn't do this. In other words, your omissions, is the cause of my sorrow. This is how we talk in the universe. If you had not done this, we would not be having this conversation because I would not be sad. Or, because you did this, I am in pain. So there are two things, itarakrita here means other people's omissions and other people's commissions. This is what itarakrita means, itaraihi krita. So how does someone else cause you pain, or so you think? Supposedly, you think other people are causing you pain because of what they do, and then what they don't do. But if they don't do something, how can it cause pain? Yeah, they didn't wish you on your birthday. Yeah, whole day you are thinking, now it will come, some surprise, some present, at least a wish, maybe of some flowers. And you keep looking to see if a gift is hidden somewhere. Yeah, no gift, nothing. And you keep waiting. And you wait till midnight thinking, give them, because you've studied some Vedanta and you're accommodated. So, you wait till 7:15, 11:59, you wait. By that time the person is fast asleep. They are in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, and then you wake them up. Yeah. You wake them up. Get up! What happened if the house is on fire? No. Get up, get out of the house. Why? Why should I get out of the house? If you are asking why, you get out right now. You get even more angry. First they have done this, not wished me on my birthday. And then what? They have not wished me on my birthday and now they don't even know what they have not done. But how can I know what I have not done? The person asks, but this is what it is. Yeah. So this is all what is that? Omission. Yeah, by not doing, they incur wrath. And then by doing something. Then you ask them, why didn't you wish me? So you were only saying, oh, this birthday is some kind of a 9 birthday, 49, 59, 39, whatever it is. And I don't want anything. You only said, I don't want to be wished, I don't want to be reminded. So I thought I was being helpful. The person is confused now. So like this, this is what is that? This is pain by omission. Somebody did not act when they were supposed to do something, they did not do. And then pain by commission. When they were not supposed to do something, that only they did. Okay? So either way, itarakrita. So this which is itarakrita, iti. So the word iti means here, it is usually thought of as such. Supposedly itarakrita vyatha is indeed swaparakama prasuta. It is caused by my own pain. My own pain due to unmet desires, unmet expectations, etc., etc., etc. And so then therefore what? Sa iyam vyatha iti mai me kathannu kopaha. How quickly, oh Lord, I react and I'm angry with everyone else. In the family, with the children, with the spouse. with the in-laws, you know, and then what? With the friends, with the co-workers. How quick I am to be so righteous and to point out that they did not do this or they did do this. Sa iyam vyatha mama iti. So when am I going to own up this, this vyatha as my own? Not mama mayi. That this vyatha, this pain is arising inside me. This is a very important thing. Let's finish translating. We'll talk about this more. So this pain is arising where? Within me alone. In other words, the other person is not the problem. No, but they still didn't wish me on my birthday. It is a problem. So one is so convinced. But don't you agree that they did wrong? They should have wished. All right, they should have wished. See, that means they are wrong. Okay, they are wrong. They didn't wish. Okay, they didn't wish. Then why does it bother you so much? Vedanta functions on the maxim, you spot it, you got it. So, yeah, that is what it is. Whatever you see and whatever bothers you, the roots and the seeds of that must be somewhere within because there is a matching thing that is going on. You're reacting to a trigger that is already deeply within. So really it's all about you, As Pujya Swamiji would say, the problem is you and therefore the solution is also you. Nothing but you. You. Nothing else, And so here he says that Esha Vyatha Mayi Iti, why don't I see, oh Lord, that this pain, this anguish, this distress is, the seeds of which are within me alone. When am I going to see this? Why don't I see this? And seeing this, Kathanno Kopaha, how come I'm not angry with myself? How come it's so easy to be angry with someone else? I'm never angry with myself. I'm always quick to be upset with somebody else because I think it is their problem. But really speaking, it is my own insecurity and my own unmet desires that are causing this anguish. But yet it doesn't, even though I'm quick to be angry with the whole universe, I am not angry with myself. The point is not that you should be angry with yourself. That's not what he's saying. He's not saying, you should blame yourself, you should be angry with yourself. He's just pointing out that whenever there is an imperfection that you see, you get angry, especially if it is other-centered. Other-centric, itarakrita, other-centric imperfection, you are quick to see, point out and get angry. But then when you see the seeds of that is within yourself alone, how come you don't get angry? And so that means that there is a discrepancy in how you react to other people versus how you react to the flaws within yourself. So, Kathannu Kopaha, how come there is no anger within me, O Bhagavan? After all, he says, Swasya Vyatha, one's own anguish, is what? Swadurita Prabhava hi Sarva. Sarva Vyatha, Swasya, all the problems, all the anguish, all the sorrow is Swadurita Prabhava. Swadurita Prabhava means one's own karma, born of Prabhava, Prakarshena Bhava, here, born, forcefully born, perfectly born as a result of one's own durita. Durita here is Papa Karma. Because of Papa Karma, one is belonging to a family where one is not wished a birthday. Yeah. Whose Papa Karma? Not the other people's Papa Karma. Your own Papa Karma. Ayyo, up till now I was enjoying this class. So, now somehow it doesn't feel very good. But this is again an objective view. Here he is not telling you to blame yourself. Because spirituality, where spiritual growth and emotional growth, especially you enter a period of committed spiritual growth only when, as I talked about yesterday, you stop blaming others and you stop blaming yourself. So the point is not to be angry on yourself and to blame yourself, but to recognize something objectively. If you keep wanting something from another person that you are connected to, and that person is incapable or unwilling to give it or incapable of giving it, what to do? And what to do is different. That's a different question. But first you have to see it as as the activation of your own durita karma. Durita here means papa karma. Because what you want, you're not getting. Correct? That is due to papa. What you want, you're not getting. And then not only that, as though that was not bad enough, what you don't want is coming in double helping. What you want you're not getting, what you don't want is coming 2 or 3 times, and then therefore here to recognize that this is because of my own karma. Again, not in a fatalistic way. There is nothing fatalistic about it. It's an objective recognition. Because you've tried everything. You've tried talking to the person, you've tried, and sometimes, you may say, I don't want to be with you, I'll be with somebody else. And then it turns out that somebody else is also not wishing you on a birthday. Yeah. This is how karma is, And I think I've told this story before. I went to somebody's house, satsang. They had organized a talk somewhere in Colorado. And these people's house was out in the boonies. And both of them worked in Denver. So I said, what happened? Why are you so far away? Oh, well, we had a terrible neighbor. And the neighbor was always, he was like remodeling all the time. Dug, 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 the drill. And all these things, every day, something or the other, some new project. And we got tired of it. So we just wanted to come to a place where nobody was there. And then so I've seen this development, nobody else had bought land. Only next to them, one house was coming up. I said, how is this working out for you? Well, unfortunately, even though there were 15 lots, the person has bought the lot right next to me and they are still building. So every day, same thing is continuing. So, durita hi prabhava sarva yatha. Where do you go? It's like that. Another story. This is Pujya Swamiji's story. One Swami came to him and said, Rishikesh is very noisy. Oh Swamiji, Rishikesh is very noisy. Put me somewhere else. And Swamiji said, in this old age, where will you go? At least here, Bhiksha is coming to you. Your food is coming to you. You just enjoy, eat. Don't worry, just, zone out all the noise. No. Too much traffic, too many things. Put me somewhere else. So when he says, will you be able to withstand the cold? I am able to withstand the cold better than the noise, Swamiji. Put me somewhere else. Right now, I insist. So Pujya Swamiji talked to the head of, Kailas Ashram in Uttarakashi and sent him there. There also he had a problem. He said that there are too many temple bells in Uttarakashi. And he cannot meditate because of temple bells. Noise of the bells. Always gong, 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 And then, he came back again and he said, I cannot, no one, no sadhaka can live in Uttarakashi. His conclusion. Send me somewhere else. And Pujya Swami said that I don't know where to send you. He says, well, at least give me your blessing. I have found one kutia somewhere far off. I don't even know, even north of Uttarakashi, as north as you can go without reaching the North Pole. He found a place. And he said, I'm going to sit there and do my sadhana. And then 6 months later, Pujya Swamiji was going somewhere in the car. And he saw this Swami back in Rishikesh somewhere, you know. And he said, hey, the Swami was about to duck because what face to show, you know. But he was caught, he came, and then what happened? You know, well, you went from there to there. He says, well, I could not meditate there either. Where the last place he was. Why? Too many birds, Swamiji. Cheep, 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 all the time. Too many birds. Vapas aa gaya, you know. So wherever you go, you know, it's not going to be, it's not going to be perfect, of course. But then, you know, I can't stand horns and traffic, and then I can't stand people. People in the ashram don't have good energy. He told about the people in Kailas ashram in Uttarakashi. And then he went to a place with no people. He could not even stand the birds. Who to blame now here? You can't blame the poor birds. You don't tell the bird, do not sing, do not open your mouth. You cannot, you know, keep on putting, you know, what's that, you know, curfew on the birds. And you cannot put curfew on people. Or what are you going to do? So you have to recognize it as, you know, here the fellow kept on blaming every single entity. And without recognizing it as the problem is within oneself alone. And usually it is durita, some karma. And here a little caveat, because the word vyatha is used, so therefore I have to put this disclaimer or this clarification. Karma cannot give you vyatha. Vyatha means sorrow. Karma does not give sorrow. Oh, so what does it give? Why is it called papa? It gives uncomfortable situations in the here or the hereafter. But the way the mind and the ahankara, the ego, react to those uncomfortable situations, because of that, there is vyatha. It's optional. Yeah. Vyatha is optional. You don't have to have pain and anguish. You have a situation that is causing discomfort. That's an objective way of looking at it. And because you don't know how to react to that objective situation objectively, therefore you react subjectively because there is no teaching, and because one doesn't know that one is the whole, one is limitless, one is free of sorrow, so one succumbs and comes under the spell. And that is why this problem takes place. So Swadurita Prabhavahi Sarva Vyatha, even though he says that it is indirectly, not directly. Because one doesn't know how to receive this discomfort, one doesn't know how to live through the discomfort without reacting, one doesn't know how to use the discomfort for one's own growth. It turns into pida, it turns into vyatha. Okay? Let's take a 5-minute break. You know, we are still in Vedanta zone. Yeah. Because we will not say the closing prayer. In 5 minutes, just get up, stretch, do what you need to do, drink water or whatever you need to do, come back. Verse number 3. Before we go to verse number 3, one more thing I want to say is that, you know, this is just because it is durita or karma, bad karma, doesn't mean that you go sit and cry over it. Oh, I have a lot of bad karma, one more complex comes or can come. So that's not the point, to look at it objectively and to Ishvarize the karma, so that it is just a manifestation of Ishvara in the life. It may be a difficult manifestation, but something that is just there, and if it's a manifestation of Ishvara, it is not affecting me. This is what the whole thing is. Then, number 3. कामभृत्यखिलदोषनिधेर्ममैष मय्याह दोषमिति को नु दुराग्रहोऽस्मिन् हेयत्वमालपति योऽयमलं न केन वार्योऽथ सत्त्ववती सोऽयमसत् किमाह कामभृत्यखिलदोषनिधे ममैष मय्याह दोषमिति को नु दुराग्रहोऽस्मिन् हेयत्वमालपति योऽयमलं न केन वार्योऽथ सत्त्ववती सोऽयमसत् किमाह. He says in verse number 3, I am very, very, very rich. Oh, very rich? Rich with what? Kama, etc. I am a walking, talking treasury of unbridled, unfettered desires, anger, fear. Kama means, kama vritti means in that same category you have to say. If you say hat, coat, shoes, umbrella, in that kind of area, that kind of a thing, those kinds of things you have to say, of that nature. So, then you have kama. If kama is mentioned, immediately where the mind goes? Anger, krodha, lobha, greed. And then moha, delusion, mada, arrogance, pride. And then matsarya. What is matsarya? Jealousy. All this comes together in kama prabhriti, all kinds of things belonging to the category of kama. I am a virtual kosha, nidhi. I am a treasury. I am myself a treasury of all kinds of wrong, tendencies. And so then Eshaha, any one person standing there, Mai dosham iti aha. So one person said to me, what? You are full of problems. Correct? Eshaha mai dosham iti aha. Aha means somebody said, you are full of problems. And who did that person say you are full of problems? To the one who was full of problems. Right? So, Eshaha mai, mai dosham iti aha. You are full of problems. Somebody told, somebody told me that I am full of problems, Then he is asking the Lord, Konu duragraho asmin, So why, that person said that, then why is there a negative reaction, duragraha, duragraha is there, how come it is there? How come this duragraha is there, and what was that? A little louder, please make it. Yeah. So, how come there is, duragraha here is anger. How come there is anger? So now he has one problem in verse number 3. Other people are finding fault with me. That is their fault. So I am finding fault with others, But then you are telling me to stop finding fault with others, but you don't think the other people are sitting and meditating. They are finding fault with me. And they are saying, that I am full of problems and I have this, I have that tendency, I have this tendency, etc., etc. And then, then how, of course, I will have a negative reaction. How will I not have a negative reaction? Of course, I will have a negative reaction. It is swabhaviki, This kind of pratikriya is swabhaviki. It seems natural that I will have a negative reaction. That I'll get angry is not, it's not rocket science. Of course I'll get angry. What else will I do? Because look at what they are doing. Here, what am I doing? I am finding fault with them, finding fault with me. And usually this is what happens when a person is told to change, because Vedanta will not come unless you stop finding fault. Then what happens? Immediately the moving finger goes and lands on somebody else and says, but they are not changing. Why are you worried about them? You change. No. Why should I change when they are not changing? And then, then one starts to feel very sorry for oneself. See, everybody is finding fault with me. Nobody loves me. Nobody is paying attention to me except negative attention like this, And then, this is my lot. Oh, poor me. Oh, dear me. Oh, poor me. Oh, lonely me. Oh, sad me. And this is what the whole thing is. There is a kind of the lolling around in this sorrow, And so this is what he's pointing out, that, this dosha is there. And then this dosha, I have some flaws, and those flaws happen to be pointed out by someone else. And immediately it smarts in the heart. It hurts. How could they do this? How could I thought they were my friend? Well, I don't see the connection. Why can't they be your friend and also find fault? Why should it be mutually exclusive? No. If they are my friend, they should be on my side and nobody should say anything to me. This is again the ahankara going its own merry way, and it doesn't like it is, the definition of ahankara is vicharam nasahate. It cannot stand inquiry, like the modern day politicians, You look into them and then they have to resign, because you look into their finances, they have to resign, because there will be some problems. You look into their behavior, they have to resign, They don't, some of them don't, and that's a different issue, but this is what it is. All over the world, not just in this country. Anywhere you look, So, like the modern day politicians, who are in it not to serve the people, but to serve their own self, and then, and their family, etc. Some politicians are like that. And so, you see, in the world of politics, this is there. All over the world, not just in one country or another country, everywhere, there are politicians who will, abuse the public trust. And then after that, what? They will just, they will be there and they will say, this is what happened, and they will give some excuse. And the ahankara is just like that. Ahankara goes along its merry way until you conduct an inquiry. When you conduct an inquiry, it collapses, it hides, it is nowhere to be found. But here, that is what it's afraid of. It is afraid, the ego, the ahankara, is afraid of its own decimation. That's why, one is very defensive and reactive when somebody is trying to tell something about themselves to them. They don't want to listen. They don't want to listen at all. They either get hurt or upset or angry or defensive, or they just go away. I don't know, like try telling a teenager something in your own house. Try telling a teenager, I think you need to meditate. I think you need to do this. They will just zone out completely. So, like this, there is the problem with the ahankara is that it cannot stand inquiry or criticism of any kind, and whether the criticism is coming from someone else or from oneself, the ego is very, very sensitive to criticism. And so here the ego in verse number 3 has been criticized by somebody else. Some nameless person, Esha, somebody who was standing there, said a few things to him, and then he says, of course, I was full of righteous anger and I could not take it. Self-righteous anger and upset. So I did not take it and I took it negatively. And then further adding, adding insult to injury, alapati, and then alapati. Alapati means what? This person, Eshaha Alapati. The Alapati, the construction is very difficult here sometimes, because the words are not coming in order, so we have to pay attention. So Eshaha Alapati. The Alapati goes with this Eshaha. So this person starts to converse. Alapati means has a conversation, presumably with others, okay, with other people, somebody, and so this person first derides me and then goes and gossips about me to others, adding insult to injury. Yaha, Eshaha, Alapati goes and tells everyone. And what does he say or she say? Hey Yatvamiti, keep away from this person. Who? Me. Keep away from this person. Avoid this person. Because they will bring you down. They are plotting your demise. They are doing this. They are wanting things that you have. They are jealous of you. They are angry with you. They say wrong things about you. And so, so you better keep away from this person. Who is this person? Me. And so first, this fellow insulted me to my face, and then he went and talked to my friends. If you talk to people at random who don't even know me, it doesn't affect me. Then this person went and talked to my very close friend circle and had the temerity to tell them to avoid me. How dare this person do that? Correct? And then he says, Kena Varyaha means how can this situation be avoided? Can you avoid the situation? Which situation? In which somebody is telling to avoid me. Somebody is telling someone else to avoid me. Can you avoid that situation? No. Why? Because you don't have any control over what that person says, who that person visits. And you're not in, kindergarten. In KG, you can say, if you talk to my enemy, you are my enemy. In first grade, you can say that. You should only be friends with me. And then if you are friends with that person, then that means you don't like me and you are against me. You can't do that in adulthood. You cannot, do that. You can try, but it's not going to have any effect. So, you can't stop the person from going and making friends with your friends. You can't stop the person from bad-mouthing you directly or going and then after that also, that was not enough, going and bad-mouthing you to your friends. You cannot stop. Kena Varyaha, it is a rhetorical question. How can this be avoided? By whom can this be avoided? Aksheparthe kim. It's a rhetorical question. Meaning, it is for the sake of akshepa. It is like it's not meant to be answered. It is more like it reiterates the fact that this situation is unavoidable. And what is the unavoidable situation? That this person came and insulted you to your face, and adding injury to insult, went and told the people to avoid you. That is unavoidable. Huh. Because that is how it is. And what should a Vedantin do in faced with this difficult situation? What should a Vedantin do? The Vedantin should again be objective and say that Sattvavati, Sattvavati Mayi, we have to bring in that Mayi, bring in that Mayi down here again. Anuvritti has to be done of Mayi here again. So Sattvavati Mayi, and in this me, where Sattvavati means where all the doshas truly reside. He did not say anything wrong, In whatever he said or she said, there was truth. It was not some kind of a accusation out of thin air. Even though it appears to be an accusation brought out of thin air, it was not an accusation out of thin air. There was some raw material there already in the form of anger, fear, whatever is being pointed out. It is true. So therefore, why would I want to, in fact, I should thank the person, right? Somebody points out some flaw in me that I did not know till now, or I knew but had been lax about it. Instead of, screaming at them or, wishing them ill, what should I do? I should say, thank you very much. This is what Vedanta does to one, or should do to one. That if somebody points out a fault, say thank you. And if somebody goes and gossips about you and tells other people to avoid you, then you say, okay, more time for Shravanam. If people are avoiding, more time for listening to the classes, more time for immersing into this teaching. Nobody is inviting me for potlucks. Yippee! Yeah, very nice. I don't have to, I don't have to cook, and I don't have to, take it there and do all these things. Nice, acha, it's no problem. Let it be so. Why should I worry about this? This is the way to take it objectively. More time for me to look into this flaw, to correct this flaw. So this verse 3 is very morose. Nobody likes verse 3 because, first two verses somehow I was able to stomach. Now I am worse off really in verse number 3 because first two verses all these limitations were put. You should not find fault with others, and you should see that when you are having difficulty with others, it's not others' problems, it is your own problem. Somehow I kind of paid attention and I survived till now. And verse number 3 is like a lead balloon. Is bringing me down because not only should I look at my own problems, anything that happens is my own problem. Here somebody comes out of the blue, especially supposed to be a hita chintaka, a well-wisher, comes out of the blue and insults me left, right and center. And I'm supposed to smile sweetly and say, thank you. Then having insulted, they go then to my own friends who I introduced them to. Because you see, there is this outrage. They were all friendless when they first came to Atlanta. They did not know anybody. The fool that I had, I introduced them to the cream of my own crop of friends. I took them to each potluck, each house, hand-held them, walked them from one house to another, introduced them. And what have they done now? They have made me, completely to one side, and their cliquish behavior. They have become a clique of all kinds of people. And I'm the one, even though I introduced them, I'm the one now out of range. No wonder I feel deranged. Yeah. So that is basically the outrage in this verse. And it's so beautifully put because this is so universal. universal, you can relate to it. This has happened to everyone. You know, this feeling of betrayal. This the verse number 3 deals with betrayal. So this betrayal everybody has experienced in some way or the other, you know, and you know, some loss of friendships, some loss of, you know, all kinds of connections, some fears, all these things people have experienced, and he very eloquently talks about that in verse number 3. Let's see what else we have seen. Vedatvam alapati yaha ayam amalam. Yeah. So, amalam here means the nature of the Atma, which is free of all modifications. This is what has to be known. That even though he is bad mouthing me, she is bad mouthing me, you know, really, I am that which is who cannot be bad mouthed at all. Not subject to bad mouthing at all. But on the level of personality, this Sattvavati, Mayi, in this me, which is what? Which is full of faults and which is the walking, talking Nidhi, walking, talking kosha of faults, then what? Asat kimaha, the person did not say anything wrong, no fault of them. They pointed out what is right. And so therefore, I have to learn to be able to take this with the same equanimity as the first 2 verses. Yeah, in the next one we'll see tomorrow. I'll stop here for some questions and answers after the closing prayer. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.